Several children, ages 10 to 15, had motorbikes. Mine was a Kawasaki 90 cubic centimeters with a green gas tank. I had just returned from a local stock car race with the family of some neighbors and friends. On the way home, they dropped me off, then they went home. It was about sunset, and I got on my motorcycle to ride in the park across the street from my house. My friends that were at the races got home and were getting theirs out too. The next-door neighbor of these friends was not at the races, but was home and got his motorcycle out too. This friend, Eric, and I were on the same trail, headed right at each other. Eric and I had known each other since the age of 4. In the few weeks preceding the incident, Eric was taunting me endlessly, or though it seemed. He was telling others of how I was afraid of confrontations. That evening I, for some unknown reason, decided to hold my own on the trail, and not veer off. This was different behavior than I normally would have done, and Eric was quite surprised. I remember the expression on his face as we began to collide head-on. We glanced along the left side of our motorcycles. The rear end of my motorcycle flew up and I was bucked off like a bull ride. It was when I was in mid-air that the spiritual experience occurred. I recall flashes of parts of my life up to that point, a bright light in one direction, being drawn in that direction, an inquiry to me as to which religious symbolic form I wanted the presence to appear in, a few options, then my image of Jesus Christ in a blue robe appeared. I seemed very, very small, and was asked how I wanted this situation to be resolved. I decided to carry on with my life, and it was agreed upon that I would do a front flip onto a bed mattress. The mattress was placed before me on the ground. The image of Jesus and the strong backlighting faded. As it shrank, the physical world came into focus. I abruptly landed on my back, hit hard and bounced into the air still rotating, then skidded on the ground on my face. That ended what I consider the religious confrontation. It was as if time stopped and I had this experience. After coming to rest on the ground, I had an out-of-body experience, where I was in the air and moving about. I remember seeing my neighbor in the park. Marcia was about 70 yards from the point of contact, but in this experience I knew she was there, moved in her direction, but was no closer than 20 yards. She appeared to be unaware of my presence, but also seemed to be motionless. The leaves on the trees seemed to move slowly as well, as the breeze was in the air. I came to when a friend that was at the car races was standing over me, with his helmet shaking me vigorously. Eric was on the back of another person's motorcycle, and almost home by the time I stood up. My legs felt numb, but I could make them move and walk, but not turn. Days later, I asked Marcia about being there, and she confirmed she was, and was quite surprised that I knew of her whereabouts, and did not want to talk about it. This was kind of a secret spot in the park. It was at a lower elevation, where we occasionally smoked cigarettes. I do not recall what she was doing, but do recall that she was very beautiful. My tooth was loose after the accident, and my lower back hurt for days. My father decided I did not need to see a medical doctor, because I could walk and move about. He assessed my loose tooth, and decided it was just bumped hard. Dad was a dentist. About 18 months later, in an X-ray, he discovered the root of the loose tooth had died, and was surprised that the injury was so traumatic. 26 years later, I had an X-ray of my lower back by a chiropractor. He discovered my lowest vertebra is nearly a quarter inch longer on one side than the other. This is the reason I occasionally have lower back muscle spasms. The muscles work hard to make up for the weight displacement due to the curvature.